This one is called The Flea and the Man. Here's a picture of the man looking kind of, strange, and the flea right there, got your neck like shit. Okay, the flea and the man. A flea bit a man, and bit him again, and again, and again, till he could stand it no longer, but made a thorough search for it, and at last succeeded in catching it. Holding it between his finger and his thumb, he said, or rather shouted, so angry was he, "Who are you, pray, you wretched little creature, that you make so free with my person?" The flea, terrified, whimpered in a weak little voice, "Oh, sir, please, pray let me go. Don't kill me. I am such a little thing that I can't do you much harm." But the man laughed and said, "I am going to kill you now, at once. Whatever is bad has got to be destroyed, no matter how slight the harm it does." And the moral is, do not waste your pity on a scamp. Now, I think that was pretty straightforward. I don't know if I necessarily need to break it down, but to wrap it up in 2 sentences, a flea was pissing the man off, and the man got pissed off with the flea and was trying to kill the flea. The flea was trying to plead for its life, and the man was like, "Nah, fuck that, bro. You gotta go." And the moral is, do not waste your pity on a scamp. Now, there's a lot of different interpretations for this. Like, I had a lot of different thoughts when I read it, and I've read this story a few times before, and I haven't chosen it for a couple of weeks when I come across it, not because it's a bad story, but because, like, there's so many ways that it can go. Like, you can look at it as, you can look at it from an actual literal perspective of, oh, yeah, like, I know me, I'm personally, I don't like to kill bugs. I like to, let them outside. I'm one of those guys, like, unless a bug has pissed me off like this flea was doing, it's like, all right, bro, you got to go. You just got to go. But in 90% of cases, like, especially with, like, bigger bugs, it's like, no. I'm going to just take you outside. You got a whole life to live. Some of y'all are just small animals, for real. Like, y'all not even bugs. Y'all so damn big. But, I looked at that and I took it a little bit differently because I think about life, and like I said, this week has been kind of wild, and I think about life, and I think about where I want to go in life and my goals, and things that are going on, and it's like when I think of flea, I don't necessarily think of a flea as much as I think of things that are small to me. There are a lot of things that are small to me that maybe click what? Huh? Someone joined to clickbait IRL. Okay. So I'm like, man, I think about these things that are small to me, and they may not be small to me now, but in the grand scheme of everything that's happening, or everything that's going to happen, or things that I believe that are going to happen, things are small. Certain problems I have every single day, or whether I'm at work, whether I'm dealing with my family or friends or whatever, certain problems in the grand scheme of things are ultimately really small. A lot of the problems that that most of a lot of the things that people stress about on a day-to-day basis is really small in the grand scheme of things, right? Maybe you're being a small person at the time, and this small thing is seeming big to you, but once you fully grow into your fully realized self, you look back and you look down and you're like, dang, that was a small problem. Why was that such a big deal at the time? If you even remember it enough to have this reflective conversation. So I look at it, I'm like, man, how many situations, how many problems, how many fleas have I allowed in my life, and to the point where I let it to the point where I show it pity, to where I let it affect my emotional well-being, I guess. And it's not that deep, but it's also like, it's that deep, especially for this. And it's an everyday process, but it's like, yo, you gotta you have to just move accordingly. You have to treat these small problems like they are. They're small problems. Like if someone came up to you in the middle of the street and said, I'm gonna give you a piece of paper, a folded up piece of paper. I'm gonna give you a folded up piece of paper. And inside of this folded up piece of paper is a math problem. Okay? And if you can solve this math problem, you know, then you if you can solve this math problem, then you will you'll get $10,000, I guess. And they hand you a sheet of paper. And you open it up. And it's 2 plus 2 equals 4. Man, you ain't stressing about that, man. You're not stressing about that. You're like, oh, this is an easy 10K, or this nigga about to rob me or something. I'm gonna look down and be like, 4, and then you get punched in the face. But I don't know if that was a good example, but I think y'all know what I was trying to do. Trying to say. Ultimately, these small problems, like, you know, they're easy. They're easy in the grand scheme of things, and we have to approach them as such. We can't overinflate these things. We can't have pity for our problems, or you know, because sometimes people use problems as like comfort. You know, some people's lives are full of problems, so then it's like, well, if I don't have a problem, then I'm not comfortable, because if, you know, this has been my life. And, you know, I've definitely had my moments like that where it was like problem after problem after problem after problem after problem. It's like, dang, I could solve these problems. I have the solution to these problems, but what will life then be after I solve these problems? Could it be better? Could it be worse? Could it be boring? All I know is these things are small. These things are not worth they're not worth the entirety of you. They're not even necessarily worth your anger, but they are worth, you know, you being your best self, where they're worth your growth. They're worth the rewards that will come from you solving this problem. So 2 plus 2 is 4 is a small problem, but what I will get from this strange man on the street who is about to give me $10,000, you know, this is a small problem for a big reward. So look at it like that. Small problems, big rewards. Just continue to be strong and push through them and figure it out. I was watching a podcast earlier this week, and they were talking about a lot of people have problems, and they won't spend time on the solution. And even from a body language perspective, when I'm facing the problem, I'm not looking at the solution right here. I'm facing the problem. I'm looking at the problem. I'm focused on the problem. But the solution is right there. There's a few solutions right there. But I'm not paying attention to them because I'm so focused on the problem. And I feel like we have to get to that point of mental strength to be able to look past it and say, okay, I see this problem. This might be a huge problem. But you have to treat them the same way. All like how God looks at all sins as sins, and all sins are equal. You have to look at your problems the same way and say, okay, this may be a big problem, but in the grand scheme of my life and of things, it will eventually be small. So let me look at the solutions and act on that and not get too up in my feelings. So that's that. The Flea and the Man. Any questions, concerns, comments? What's good, AJ Renegades?